All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And good evening, one and all, and welcome back to the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. Now, the X Zone is a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And we come to you Monday through Friday, right here from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, on the X Zone Broadcast Network and on Classic 1220 CFAJ. And their website is www.classic1220.ca. Wow, what a day it's been. Have you ever had one of those days, X Zone Nation, where nothing goes right? I mean, absolutely nothing goes right. That's the kind of day I had today. It was just one of those days that, I couldn't wait to get here to the X Zone where I'm surrounded by people that are friends, people that I've known over many years, and people who believe. And that's the greatest power in the universe, the power of belief. And I've got to tell you something, X Zone Nation. We here in the X Zone and the broadcast studios, we believe that we are here to do something very special, something very unique. This is our 34th year of broadcasting, 34 years. And I will tell you something, that everyone has a story. Everyone has an experience. And all we need to do is say, do you have something that you'd like to talk about? Show them that you're sincere. Show them that you're interested. Make it a safe place for the listeners and those who come on air and talk to us. And that's what we do here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. My first guest tonight, X Zone Nation, is Rob Middaugh, and he is in a small community. I believe it's a small community. It is, let me see here, it's in Nova Scotia, and it is Port Hood. Joining me now from Port Hood in Nova Scotia is Rob Middaugh. And Rob, welcome to the X Zone.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Rob, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have been a gifted psychic, medium, healer, I guess basically since I was a little kid. The story with my mother and myself was my mother as a little girl had gotten kicked by a horse at some point when she was a small little girl, and she only had one kidney. So when I was born I was born November 21st, 63. So about October, she started to develop what they call toxemia. She had met my dad in the Navy, and they moved back to Ontario together where my dad's parents were living. And so around the 21st, she was suffering pretty bad, the way that I understand. So what Dr. Hessler at the time, he said that he was a GP plus a heart specialist. And he said that when I was born, I had from her toxemia, I had what they call blue blood, and I needed an incubator. So basically, I guess they didn't do that. And 3 days later, my blood type, which at that time when coming out of mom was O positive, changed into A negative. I lived. And at that point, Dr. Hessler said that I was a miracle baby. Like, this is just the way the story goes. But as a little kid, and there was no other brothers and sisters, it's like I was the only one. basically I could talk and hear things that weren't there. I didn't really understand. I remember being told at 16 I'd work in the medical field and drive a truck. And I mean, I don't know how you put that together to save your soul. But there I was working for a company called Fluke Transport as the lead shunt driver, backing trailers in and running home to run a clinic to heal people. So, you know, everything you see kind of all ties in at one point or another.
My goodness. You, as a psychic and as a psychic healer, how did you realize that you had this very special gift? And when was it the first time that you started using your gift to help people?
Well, about 1989 or so, I had been out of the service. I was in the Marines, and I was out of the service, and I was married. And I came home. I was working for a company called Tampa Hall out of Air. And there was oversized trucks and stuff I was driving them for. And I came home, and Diane, my wife at the time, was cooking on a stove, and she had one foot up on kind of like bandages around it, and she was flipping a little burger in the little oven or stove we had there. And like anything, I just stared at her foot for a second. Well, I heard a voice in my head said, if you take her and put your hands around her ankle, like where the injury is, she'll be better. I'm trying to figure, well, she's going, they don't know what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
She's going through medical tests. Let's give this a go. So I sat her on the couch after she made the burger, and I ran my hands around it, and she could put a slight weight down on the foot that she couldn't before. I said, well, every day, don't say nothing to anybody. Every day when I come home, I'll fix it up. And it started from there. And it just kept growing and growing and growing to a point that I can actually, at first when I started working with the energy, in order to get into my zone, I almost have to take my eyes and roll them into my head to find that spot, that sweet spot. But as time went on and I kept doing it, I can basically talk and communicate and use my gifts at the same time while I'm giving energy. But my unique thing for me is I can go pinpoint with it, and I can feel responses. So basically, like if someone was filling up a tank of their gasoline in their vehicle, I can feel it go in, and then I can feel it talk to me and tell me where I need to move it. Like, for example, if someone sprays their ankle, for example, and sometimes they'll say you're out for a week. Well, I can set that into treatments, 45 minutes each. The first one, I'll set it all up so you can light on it, and then when you come back the next day, I'll go and needle all those little tendons, and you're good to go. And I've done the same with gout. I've had gout come in, and my manager would come in with canes, and 4 hours later he's leaving without it. Now the neat thing about gout is I found I couldn't touch it. It wasn't direct heat. I had to, because of the way it acidates, it acidates itself and crystallizes, I had to go over top of it and kind of rub it out. So I go over each joint, rub it out, and then go the other side and rub it out, and then get him to move his leg. Okay, that's freed up. And take moving up that way and just get the gout right out of the system that way.
What's it like to be able to heal someone?
It basically, for me, boils on to the next person. There's this incredible need to want to just spread the love, the energy with as many people as you can. And you asked me about my failures and my pluses. My failures is I can't touch enough people, which is a strange thing to say, but it's the feeling you get. It's an overwhelming feeling to help as much people as possible. And it boils down to the one thing that I don't like it when the doctors give these people a terminal thing. Okay, there's nothing more you can do for you. Go home. No, that's when I get mad. And I said, well, seek out all the things you can seek. It has nothing to do with me. But just don't take that answer. Look for more with faith. Look out there and see what you can do. Get more stuff done. I don't care if you have to go to Timbuktu to get it done, but there's somebody somewhere that can give you another option. Don't take that final option because life is too precious.
It certainly is. Tell our listeners about what happened when you were 16 years old when you had your vision.
Well, I was with my friend Brian, or friend by Brian, and we were in the BY youth group. And for me, I was always finding myself to be isolated a little bit. I didn't quite understand how everybody worked, but at the same time, I had something growing in my own head to figure it out. But when I seen the vision that I was either going to be working in the medical field and driving a truck, I couldn't quite, like I said, put that together. But later on, when I found myself doing the same thing and then running home to a clinic and my own clinic that I had set up, And I even remember at one point, my wife seen this lady who had trouble walking.
Right.
And so she asked in a parking lot if she'd come home, because I was running this clinic at night, this free clinic. And so this lady came to our place, and I started working on it. And this is a hard thing to say, but it sometimes we run into it. Sometimes people are the diseases. Sometimes people get something and they want to keep it, and it defines them. And this was one of these points. This lady wanted a disease. She wanted to keep it. It defined her. So as I'm done doing the treatment on her, I go back out, and her husband is sitting at our kitchen table waiting for her, and tells me that he's a police officer, and he's charged guys like me with fraud before.
Whoa! Now
So
come on. Come on.
Yeah.
What grounds did he have to even suggest that you weren't legitimate?
I guess it was just in his mind, but I did fix this problem. What I did was I read both their heads at the same time and told them what they were both thinking, and they started an argument between each other. And after that, he became one of my best friends. We'd go all over the place. We'd go to, I used to do this thing for a herbal company that have herbs and vitamins and stuff, and I would go there, and he would have a notebook, and I would assess them up from one side to the other, and he would write this down, Jim, the highlights of the things I said, and give it to them. No, but Jim became quite the friend after that. I guess sometimes you just got to wake people up. Eh?
Well, I'm an ex-cop, and I realized that in the old days, telling fortunes for consideration was an offense under the Canadian Criminal Code, which I could never understand. But seeing is believing. Like I was talking to you before we went on air, I've been doing the show for over 34 years, and I've talked to psychic healers. I've talked to members of the medical community, Western medical doctors, who say that there is more out there that we do not understand, that anything is possible until it's proven it to be impossible.
Yeah.
One of my very good friends is a preceptor for the University of Colorado Medical School, and she is a somebody who deals with, how can I best describe it, New Age alternative medicine that the medical community is very, very interested in learning about. So, my friend, hats off to you for doing the great work you do.
Well, thank you. Well, I'll tell you one of the things that happened with Jim. Now, this is my one dream, is to actually work with leading doctors and just be paid a salary to live and do what I need to do and just go around healing people. Like whether it's sick kids in the bed, and it just shows that over time, no matter where I go, there's going to be some kind of a plus, there's going to be some kind of a benefit from it.
Right.
And I just keep going until you can't go anymore. And that's my belief, but never there. But anyway, Jim, in his essence there, decided to take me to where a murder had happened off of a Burford Road.
All right, listen, I'm going to stop you here because I've got to take a break. So when we come back from this break, let's talk about where your friend, who's a police officer, took you to a murder scene. Does that work for you?
Yeah, sure.
All right, stand by, please. Great talking to you, Rob, and thank you very much for coming on the X-Zone tonight. X-Zone Nation,
I love it. I'm just listening.
All right, thank you, sir. X-Zone Nation, if you'd like to have the opportunity of contacting my guest this hour, the email to do is Dave, D-A-V-E .hammer, Hammer, 12 @gmail.com. That's Dave.hammer12 @gmail.com. And Dave and I will be back on the other side of this break as the X-Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. And, are you ready for this? Classic 1220 CFAJ here in St. Catharines, Ontario. The website is www.classic1220.ca. I'm Rob McConnell, and welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Today on the X-Zone, the world of psychic fairs.
Throughout Canada, psychic fairs spring up in towns and villages of all sizes. Now, what is the best way of choosing a psychic at a psychic fair? According to Stan and Ray, organizers of First Star Famous Psychic Fairs, visitors to a psychic fair should walk around the fair a number of times until they're drawn to a particular psychic, and you can visit their website at www.e-psychic.com. Never be pressured into getting a reading from a psychic that you just don't feel comfortable with. If you're not satisfied with your reading, tell the psychic. And remember, people, psychic readings at a psychic fair are for entertainment purposes only.
I wanna know where my confidence went. One day it all disappeared. I'm lying in a hotel room miles away. Voices next door in my head. Where daytimes are dragged, night times worse. Hope that I can get home soon. But the half-finished bottles of inspiration lie like ghosts in my room. Well, I wanna go. I know I can't stay, but I don't wanna run.
Oh, wow. That is one of the greatest Canadian bands that I've had the pleasure of seeing myself when they were here in St. Catharines many years ago, Blue Rodeo. What a great bunch of guys. Exonation, I guess this hour, speaking about Canada, is a gentleman from Port Hood, Nova Scotia. Rob Middaugh is his name. And Rob, thanks very much for joining us tonight. Always a great pleasure talking to a fellow Canadian.
Oh, great. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right, now, when we last left, before we went to our last break, we were talking about the friend that you made who was a police officer. He took you to a crime scene. Take it up from there, Bob.
Yeah. Okay, well, this is in a rural area outside of Brantford there called Burford Township. And what he did was he said that there had been a crime, that the body had been found.
Mm-hmm.
And what he did was he just drove me up in the police cruiser there, and he asked me what I could see. Well, I wasn't happy with where he drove me to, and I asked him to back up. So he did. He backed up maybe about, 70 meters or so. And I got out of the police cruiser, and this was a wooded area, and I went into a corner of the woods, and I started walking in that one corner there, and I stood there. And so he was standing on, this was just like a summer type day, so he was standing on the other side of the cruiser and his notepad out. And I kind of explained what I'd seen. I seen that there was a kind of like this girl that was found, that a van had kind of picked her up, and inside the van was a gentleman and his brother, and the brother, we'll say, was a little bit slow, and he got playing with the girl, and he basically broke her. And so anyway, I'm telling Jim this, and I said, how'd I do? Well, Jim says, what you told me is still an ongoing investigation, but he says where you're standing to is where I took coffee to 3 years ago.
Wow.
So I had needled it down to her exact spot, and, the rest of it, we never know if it actually ever got solved, but just that piece of it is a big clue that you're turning into spirit. You're actually, you're on the money, as they say.
Let me ask you this, Rob, and I don't know if you've been asked this before, and I don't mean this to be condescending or sound like too much of a skeptic, but why you? Why do you think that you've got this gift? And I've got to tell you something, my friend, I envy you.
Well, it can be a curse too.
Really?
Because so much, you're kind of overloaded with so much things that you can do, and sometimes you just don't have the ability to be able to do it. The person will show up. They put other priorities ahead of you. Like the biggest thing I've had for healing is if somebody doesn't want to play your fee that you have, because here's how it works. You all have to pay the pony, as they say. You have to give up something of yourself in order to get thanks for what you've been given. It goes back to an old phrase in the Bible, But when it comes down to it, I've had people that would substitute their need for a drink or substitute their thing for a smoke. And if I knew I could get those other 3 or 4 treatments into them, they like to be set, but they're left you halfway. So you're kind of frustrated in a way, and you kind of, I'm a person, because of my military background, I like to complete a job I started. I don't care if it's out of my own pocket or not. That's irrelevant to me.
Well, wait a sec. Hold on here. Just hold on for a sec. You were in the military?
Yeah.
Then there's something I'd like to say to you. Okay. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I actually just got my first medal from the Legion for for being executive members of all the ear sex therapists.
God bless you for that. God bless you for that. You know, I don't think there are many people out there who realize that the freedom and democracy that we Canadians enjoy is because of people like you who served in the military. And when I watched with my wife the other day the remembrance ceremonies from Ottawa, I got goosebumps. I got goosebumps because, you know, if it wasn't for the members of the military, past and present, and those who are going to join in the future, Canada would not enjoy the freedoms and the democracy that it does. So thank you for your service.
Well, thank you. I mean, like you say, you enjoy the freedoms you have because somebody else laid their ass down on the line for you to have them. And, you know, that just can't be said any more than that.
I heard a phrase the other day that was, the voice of history is very heavy. And I thought, wow.
Yeah. Like we have so many, like we go into spirits and we go into ghosts, and there's so many ground spirits, and what happens to them is those are people that have above amounts of emotion. They wanted to get home, they didn't get home, they get frustrated, they're killed where they are, and they're stuck either in a loop or there's an intelligent resident. So there's so many different levels of our ground spirits that are there, and they're stuck just where they are, you know, and they talk about this. And, you know, that's the part that I guess at one point when God does his thing and calls everybody up, you know, we can have the atone and everybody can get back upstairs again or wherever they want to go. But for now, there's a lot of them stuck on this level.
You know, and I don't want to sound too political at this point because this isn't what the show is all about. But when I see homeless vets that are out there, God, my heart breaks. You know, you just can't do enough to help these people who went over, whether it's to Afghanistan, whether it's Iran, whether it was part of the peacekeeping corps that the military does. It breaks my heart. You know, like they fought, they were there, they answered the call, and they come back home and it's, well, you know, sucks to be you, basically.
Yeah, there's not. And, you know, I mean, I'm not going to make light of this or whatever, but a lot of times them living outside and do what they can is a point of freedom. There used to be tunnel rats back in Vietnam.
Right.
And a lot of them couldn't be put in closed buildings. They just couldn't. They'd been so much in a tunnel in the middle of nowhere. The bombs went off. They were stuck with all these dead bodies under there. You know, tunnels had sealed them, and they went squirrely. And so a lot of these veterans that choose to be homeless are doing it because they want that open, they want the cold, but they want that open aspect. They want to be able to see what's coming at them, you know, from all angles, because that's what war does to you. It makes you paranoid. It makes you scared in your own mind to defend your own little zone. So how do you do that? You're free, you're open, you can see what's coming, you know every angle, you try to, you know.
God bless them, and thank them all for their service, and I thank you for your service, sir.
Well, thank you. But I do have an interesting story, if I can say it. Or
you sure can,
okay.
Please.
Okay. So around 2008, I was working for Domino's Pizzeria, not the pizzeria, but I was driving corporately. So for their tractor, we'd do about a province and a half in a 3-day run with a tractor trailer. Well, there'd be two guys. One of us would do the dough, the other would do the product, and we'd drive to each store. So on the day I was supposed to go out, I had just purchased a motorbike. It was an 89 D Max. I always wanted one. And I had some loose mufflers, and I thought I was going to take it over to the muffler shop. So anyway, I drive this bike around the corner, and I did something dumb. I shined up the wheels with Armor All, and what happens is the bike kind of shits out on me, and it breaks my ankle. Ooh. So I had to call my boss, and I can't believe it at the time. Mitch actually said I did it on purpose. I said, well, nobody will break their ankle on purpose, but yeah, okay. So what happens is the next morning I wake up, I had to go to Banff for the surgery. I was in Canmore, so I had to go to Banff for the surgery. And I wake up the next morning, and I'm told if I could hobble down to the park there. There's a little park with a little pond. If anybody's been around Banff and where the hospital is, there's a park outside there. I'm told if I could hobble down there, I'm supposed to meet this girl that I haven't met yet. Okay, well, take 3 weeks down the road. There was a native guy. I'd went to community service to help get some money, waiting on some insurance money to come in and so on and so forth. And he needed to ride back to Banff, so I give him a ride, tell him about being a healer and the people that how I was. And he agrees to buy me a drink, and we went from there to another bar. He started to get a little bit belligerent, so I kind of met somebody else. And we walked across the street to the Oak and Oarsman on the main street. I'm sitting behind this four. There's three guys and this one girl.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the one girl gets up to go to the washroom. And when she came back, I could see you say something to her. She laughs. I say something. She doesn't say anything at all. Well, she bends down to me and she says, "Are you a psychic?" I said, "Yes, I am." 3 seconds later, we're leaving hand in hand. She was the girl that I was supposed to meet in the park, and they just made another connection. And she was waiting with the three guys because she didn't want to wait alone, she said. And we were together 5 years, moved back to New Zealand together. And just a very interesting story about somebody understanding how, spirits work. And she was a teacher. She was 28 at the time. She had a PE degree and a high school diploma for teaching school. Mm-hmm. And she just wanted what science couldn't tell her on the other side. So she'd ask.
So did I understand right when you said you moved to New Zealand?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
2009. Yeah, she wanted to go back and live with her parents and do that. And I was free to be able to do that. I had, but still didn't really settle myself down. I was still living a little bit off the insurance money that I got for the broken leg. I had to have the parts being taken out again. And so we decided to just go back to New Zealand. And I ended up getting my residency through there. And I stayed there until 2012. I basically, I have to be honest, there was 20 years difference in us. I came home to a Dear John note, and she was gone, and that kind of really ended whatever I would have had there going on with her. And I felt I'd come back to Canada, and I came back to Saskatoon, basically.
Wow, you get around, my friend.
Yeah, I've been everywhere. Last year I was working out in Kelowna there, and now I've just kind of went back. I kind of actually kicked into my healing and my psychic thing full time. Mm-hmm. And I just said, no more driving truck, no more doing that. And whether anybody comes to me or not, it's kind of like just sit here and wait and they will come. So that's the theory I have.
Fascinating, truly fascinating. We've got about 2 minutes or a minute before I have to take my next break, my producer has just told me. When we come back, I would like for you to do a reading for me. Would you be able to do that?
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't have, what I got to do is just see what comes in and see what I can say to you.
That's all I'm asking. And please don't censor anything. Whatever you feel, just say. Yeah. How does that sound to you?
Fun.
All right, Exo Nation, my guest this hour is a gentleman from Port Hope in beautiful Nova Scotia, one of Canada's most beautiful provinces. So if you're ever visiting Canada and you visit our East Coast, we have New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland. And I've got to tell you something. The people in Nova Scotia are the nicest, warmest people that you'll ever meet. And I've got to tell you something. If you love lobster, the Bay of Fundy lobster, all you do is add butter. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break now that I've got everybody hungry as the X-Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and on Classic 1220 CFAJ. The website is www.classic1220.ca.
Tell my secrets to in my room, in my room, in my room.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. I'm Rob McConnell. We're coming to you on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and our newest affiliate, All right, are you ready for this? Classic 1220 CFAJ here in beautiful St. Catharines, Ontario. And I've got to tell you, they've got some of the best shows going. Good friends of mine, Pete Dichter, Chuck LaFleur, Danny Z. Like, these are guys that I know and I've known for a long time. So do yourself a favor. If you love the greatest music of all time, the classics of music, go to www.classics1220. www.classic1220.ca. My guest this hour is a gentleman from Port Hood in Nova Scotia. His name is Rob Middaugh. And Rob, welcome back. Thanks very much for joining us.
Well, thank you very much.
All righty. We've talked about your healing. We've talked about you being a psychic. So I asked you if you could just kind of give me a little bit of a rating, and what have you been able to establish over the last couple of minutes listening?
Well, first of all, I'm going to go into one of the first pictures I've got showing about you is you sitting back in a chair with a pipe with a dog, and I think what that image brings to me is you don't get it enough. I don't think you're able to relax enough. I think you're a guy that's always on the go. You're always, even if you think you have a few minutes to rest or you planned on this, I don't think you're getting it. I think and that can kind of leave you a little bit of a fragile mind at times, because a person needs their quiet time. They need to be able to take that break and enjoy that time and that peace in the mind. That's the biggest thing I get shown. So the next thing they show me is that you've got a heart issue, that you've got a, I don't know if it's a fast beat or it's just showing me the heart's getting a little tired. So it indicates more need for this rest or for this quiet time that you need to have. And those are the two big things that I go to. And I mean, I can expand on that and I'll get to see more and more as I go.
Sure.
But I mean, I don't know what kind of in-depthness you want me to get or what you want me to go right at. The big thing about being as a Marine, I found with my ability, the more I'm challenged, the harder it goes. Like it'll go in and get more. It's just that part of that. Nobody's gonna. I had one guy one time said that about 3 or 4 psychics couldn't read him, and he laid down. At that time, I was charging $20 for a half an hour, and he laid the $20 down and he said to me, "If you can read me," he says, "you can get this $20. You don't even have to answer any questions." So for the first couple of minutes, he was right. Very hard walls couldn't get through.
Right.
So I decided to scan him medically, and I found that one of his eyes was weaker than the other, and I was right in there. And it's just as they say. My grandfather used to say, used to guy who skinned muskrats, and he says there's always a way to skin something. He says you just got to go at it in a different way.
All I'm going to say, Rob, and I'll talk to you later about this, is you're right on both counts.
Well, it doesn't. See, it's not coming from me. See, Spirit knows all the stuff, and they just tell me. They just tell me everything I need to know. Like when I ran into a gentleman who was a stroke patient. He was a top out of Hamilton. I was doing a TT course, and I actually started working on the lady. I was just trying to get an idea of what I had, because that's back in the 90s. Nobody knew nothing. And so I started, scanned her. I seen that she had a series of migraines, and I went to work on one. Everybody was figuring it out. I was already rocking and rolling with it. And so the lady who was teaching the class got offended at me. Like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, we have time. They're all figuring it out. I'm just going to go heal." And so she was mad. So that lady there that was my partner at the time, there's somebody in class, said, "Hey, my husband's had the stroke. He's 42 years of age. Could you come over?" I said, "Yeah, after work, after putting the trailers in, I'll come over and see what I can do." So very first day I stood there, and he was looking at the wall on the ceiling, and we put up a piece of paper, and he had blurry vision. So what I did was I bounced the area energy off the back part of his retina, off the back part of his skull, and he started to see better. It started to clear up his vision there just by pouring the energy in the back part of his skull. So I'm working on his debilitated part. It didn't feel right. I said, "Okay, on the way home, I live an hour away. On the way home, I'll ask what I need to do." And this girl amazes me today. I'm not reading any medical books. I'm simply working for God, doing what I need to do. And it tells me to work on the other side of his head. So at that time, I had no idea that left and right brain had anything to do with each other. So what I did was I laid him the next day. I laid him down on the floor on the opposite side of his head, a little bit above his ear. I worked on that, what would be an aneurysm at the time, and 3 20-minute sessions. On the third day, it peaked. It said, "Tell him to stand up, he could use his arm." He stood up, and his arm was fully functional. So if I let it go for a day, it would lax, but I worked it out in about 2 weeks, and he was good to go, and I never heard any more from him.
My goodness. Why do you think that the established medical community just doesn't want to open their eyes and open their their hearts to the possibilities that people like you and other psychic healers can bring to those who actually need the care, especially in today's medical quandrum that we all see? It's the medical communities are kind of overruled, and they could actually use your help.
Yeah, I have one word. Money.
Wow.
Unless we can make something from it, or unless we can have it as a pharmaceutical side or something that we can, I can't tell you if I had my wife on here, her father died from cancer, and she'll tell me this, and I'm not picking on anybody in general. What I'm saying is what she told me. And she said they would often have his file outside the room, and they'd come into the room and they go, oh, well, you're not Mr. Jones, or you're not this, you're not that. And so a lot of times it's like having blind men put up a building. They're just working in the dark. It's like a big friggin' dartboard, and they figure if they take a stab at it, maybe they'll get close to the bullseye, but most times they miss.
What was the hardest case that you came across as a psychic healer?
I had a woman. I moved up to Shetty Camp there and was working out of the Shetty Camp area there. And I had a woman come to see me that had reproductive cancer. And it was on her final days. At this point, she weighed 88 pounds, and she wanted me to come to her house. She was very weak, and I did. And I worked on her. And sometimes, here's the thing, sometimes I'm not going in there to win. Sometimes I'm going in there to move them quicker to the other side so they don't suffer. It's kind of a double-edged sword. You don't always go in to figure you're going to give me more time. Maybe they're not going to suffer. I kind of thought I was going into the picture on that particular deal. So as I'm working with her, and when I finished up doing the energy tour, she turned to me and she says, I now know what an angel feels like. Well, that was very moving, and that was beautiful. But when I went to go check on her the next day or the day after, she had passed away.
Oh,
and the family thought that I had killed her, and they didn't want me to come up and be part of the funeral. They didn't want me to be anywhere near Scotia. That part that's hurt. I did everything I could to help her, put her in a better place, and at the end, I'm the fall guy. So that little stuff like that is the stuff that kind of gets to you, because you have no control over that. You're simply just, like I said, I work for people I don't see. I'd love to have a positive outlook on everything I do, but that's just not life. It never always happens that you can patternize. If it does, then there's something wrong with patternizing.
Before the show, you were telling me about a UFO experience, and I'd love for you to share it with our listeners.
So this was around May, about the last Wednesday in May 2021. I had woke up that morning saying to my dad, I live down here, he lives off of Inverness. And I woke up that morning there saying that we're going to be visited by a UFO. Now let it go like that. So that night, my son and my father were outside the deck. He had bought a little bit of fireworks from Halifax. My son was in the 30s. And we let off one of these small little, they're like a little tube, and they got those 40 or 60 feet little balls that come out of them. They're multicolored. And this was getting low to dusk still, kind of dawnish outside there. And we're 3 kilometers from the town of Inverness. Anyway, as we set off the first set of this, up comes this UFO. Now it's not making a single sound. It's about 300 yards from us. It's about 200 yards off the top of the trees, and it's just moving very silently. It's about 140 feet long. It's about 40 feet wide. And the neat part that I seen in it were these windows, or look like windows. They look like windows you'd have in the top of your skylight. They're kind of tall and square and rectangular. And there was about 6 of them. But the neat part that I noticed is all of them had equal light in them. This is a unique thing to look and see all the little panels. So whether they were sensors or what they were, I have no idea. But we had where it was a hayfield at one point that my grandfather had when he was alive. So it's always been kept kind of down. There's not trees all through it. It's just kind of like a borderline of being a hayfield. So the craft started to go up, and then it drifted towards where the old farmhouse is on the opposite side of the road, about where they'd come in the entrance. So we came up with the idea, my dad's an old ex-Navy boy, we came up with the idea, why don't you take one of those tubes, fireworks, and act like you're going to fire on the craft. So we lit the end, and one of the tube balls didn't come out of the end, but this craft created a hole right there in the atmosphere, right ahead of itself, and just vanished just like that. Just like, like you took a cat and lit it on fire, and it was gone. That's what you do, but it was just gone. And no zipping up in the air, no gone. It just created a hole like a wormhole, and it left.
My goodness. What did you feel? Did you feel as if anything was trying to communicate with you or any of the people that were there, or do you think that they were just
I
curious?
They were scared shitless.
Well, we can't use that word on air, so they were just scared, really scared, right?
Yeah. And I'll tell you so much so that during August, when we weren't around, because I was working out at Suncor, they sent a probe down to see. My dad has a friend that he visits, a lady, and he has this sensor on top of his light in his driveway. And he was looking, it was 10 o'clock at night, and he was wondering why the sensor was diminished. Mm-hmm. And he looks over on top of the, where the little sensor was on top of what turns the light on, and there was this little probe, like the size of a baseball, just sitting there full of light. And the minute Dad seen it, they made a check mark in it and took off.
Wow.
See, the thing is, and I'll be honest with you, my dad has an extreme intelligence. Maybe somehow they picked up on that, and I'm not boasting because he's my father, but he can take anything and redesign it. He doesn't know how to play guitars, but he can make one out of scratch and make it sound good together, and he works with electronics. He can do things that aren't particularly normal for most males. He's just got that above intelligence in him. And somehow maybe they sense that. Something's going on.
Do you think that it's possibly something in the genetic structure of your dad? Was there anyone else in his family prior to him that may have had these experiences as well? Is there anything within the religious philosophies? There are so many questions, so many ways that,
I think from my side of my gifts, they come from my mother's side and my grandfather. Now, in Gaelic, boxins are ghosts. And I've heard stories of my grandfather talking about the property where our house sits now, that he went to go pull a mare out of this property, and the mare kind of reeled up as he went to close the gate, and he sees this woman in a white dress that's a ghost going down the highway in front of him. So, and my first cousin can fetch for water, and when he tries to fight it, the stick will actually rip into his hand. But I'm on the opposite side. That would be negative, and I'm on the positive side where I give the energy. So it's in the McKinnon side of it. It's as far as I'm concerned. And my mother was a nurse for years. She would go, and if people, like, she worked in a nursing home, and if they were, they knew they were going to pass and they started that chain-stoked breathing, my mother would just go there and lay a hand on them. They'd settle down and they'd go.
Rob, please stand by. You and I have to take our final break. Exxon Nation, Rob Middaugh is my special guest. And if you'd like to contact Rob for a one-on-one private consultation, we're going to give you his website when we come back from this commercial break. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone, xzbn.net, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, and Classic 1220 CFAJ at www.classic1220.ca. And you've got it all here on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, and of course on our newest affiliate in St. Catharines, Ontario. You ready? Classic 1220 CFAJ. Their website is www.classic1220.ca. .ca. And here's the funny part, Exo Nation. CFAJ used to be, many years ago, 1220 CHSC, where the X Zone first started. Over 34 years ago. I kind of feel like a salmon that I've kind of come home. But you know what happens to a salmon when they come home, huh? This guy ain't going to do that. Too many important things to do. But it's great being back here in the city of St. Catharines. You know, it's a beautiful city. We're right here in the region of Niagara. We're about 15 minutes away from Niagara Falls. From our studio here in St. Catharines, I can see Lake Ontario. In fact, looking out our studio window, I can see the city of Toronto right across Lake Ontario. So if ever you're out and you're saying, geez, where can I go for a vacation? Do yourself a favor. Come to Niagara, the friendliest people in the world. My guest this hour, Exo Nation, is Rob Middaugh. His website, he doesn't have a website, but what he'd like us to do is let you, the Exo Nation, know how you can contact him for a one-on-one private consultation. And that's using his email address, dave.hammer12@gmail.com. First of all, Rob, thanks very much for coming on the show. Great having you. And thank you for your service once again.
Well, thank you very much. No problem, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Rob, when it comes to the other side, there's a lot of myths, there's a lot of skepticism, there's a lot of misinformation. How do you, as a professional psychic, understand what the other side is all about?
Basically, if you were a martial artist, you as you get to certain places, you take certain levels. Mm-hmm. And I would like to change those belts around as far as my belief personally into God, or my way that I look at it, as degrees of faith. And as you build more degrees of faith, and as you understand what faith actually means, you ride on what they call the faith highway, which means that, for example, if God was to chop one of my arms off or do something, I wouldn't say, oh my God, why did you do this? I said, what have I got to learn from this? What do you need me for? What is the task I must do for you now? It's not a point of blame. It's a point of understanding that it's not a personal thing to you, that they have a plan. And what I tried to actually put it as, if you were a bunch of ants and you were looking up at a man walking by, how could you possibly know what that man was thinking? So, you know, and that's the way I kind of look at spirit. I look at God. There's no way we have any, idea of what's going on. We're all just little pieces of puzzles that fit into play here. We're used over here. We're used over there. And when he needs to do whatever he needs to do, or she or he, or however you want to say it, the pieces get moved. Puzzles get changed.
How has being a professional psychic and a professional psychic healer like you are changed your life and changed your outlook on the world that we live in?
I'm not focused on money. Here's how it works for me. It's weird, but if I need anything, I get provided for me. I don't know how. I don't know how it shows up. I don't know, but everything that I've needed as far as God's concerned, the food that I eat, where I'm living here now, it's all provided by Him at some point or another, that He makes sure that I'm taken care of. So, and you can't enter into heaven with $1 million in your pocket. It just won't work. So I'd rather have all the things that I have, and have my faith, and have the good love that I feel from Him, and do the jobs I need to do for Him, just to kind of fulfill our little, our little place here on earth.
How can people listening to us tonight here on the X Zone, how can they see if they too have the ability to do psychic work and to do psychic healings?
Yeah, I've heard it said that you can. I've been shown a lot of times for books and stuff, and that's never been my way. I'll pick it up for 30 seconds, and if it doesn't relate to me, I put it down. It's kind of something that you have a calling for. It's like if somebody says, I'm a minister, I feel I've had a calling. And if you feel you have a calling, or you feel you have a gift, sometimes the best way is just to keep working it out. It takes time to understand the pathways that your brain works, or how the information you're given, how you have to find that, and which way. I mean, maybe sometimes it means taking educational courses to bring it out more, to understand the little subtle things you're showing are actual clues. And the biggest thing that I would say in the beginning of all this is to actually go with the first thought you'd be given. A lot of people second guess it. And when you second guess it, that's your mind, not the reading.
That's the gut feeling that you get, right?
Yeah, that's that gut feeling. Or that
Yeah.
For me, it's like a voice. I'm being told something. And I remember, for example, something about, I was doing a reading on this particular lady, and it's something about an uncle came through and he wanted to be hit in the head with something. It was just a wild thing. And I kind of questioned even saying it to her, but no, okay. And she says, oh, that's my uncle, that's him, that's whatever. So oftentimes the things that don't seem to make very much sense, like I was doing a radio talk show in Sydney there, and I had this one lady call up, and she says, tell me how my financial situation is going to be. And the gift came back and said, tell her as soon as she gets rid of that drunk husband, everything will be okay. And I said that. She said, okay, and hung up the phone.
You know, I over the years, we used to have open lines and we'd accept callers when we had psychics like yourself on the show. And there were always the same questions. Am I going to find Mr. or Miss Right? Am I going to get the job? Where can I find love? And it was always the same questions that people who refused to take any initiative would ask. And finally, we decided, well, it's going to be the same people, the same time, the same questions. So how do you deal with that, Rob? How do you deal with the people who kind of form a dependency on you?
Well, I would call it, in our circle, what I've run across, it's called a loop. When they keep doing the same thing and it comes looping back the same way, then you kind of just got to have a hand out there for them and say you'd like to help them, but you find a way to quickly try to distance yourself by them a little bit. You know, you never want to close the door on somebody.
Sure.
But, you know, you can say, well, maybe my friend Linda can talk to you a little bit more on this side of it. Maybe I'm not quite understanding enough of it, and she's a little better at this thought. You know, it's just a different way to tell somebody, you know, like, give me a break.
Exactly. You know, there are psychic fairs that pop up across Canada and the United States all the time. How can somebody going to a psychic fair actually know who the best psychic for them to talk to is?
Well, I'll tell you what I've learned from the psychic fair in Busy. Here's the deal.
Okay.
So let's take, for example, out of the Brantford Fair, for example, you got to go there and there's a fee for you as a psychic person. You put down, say, $2,000 for you to be there for the weekend.
Wow.
Now you spend so much time in that hour to do your thing that you're trying to recuperate the money that you put out to be there, that it gets more into a show and a whole lot of pain in the butt to try and get back the money that you really don't give the quality time like you'd like to. I'd like to see that fee or that greatly fee reduced, like go into a big pot and this is what we need, and let psychics and healers and everybody kind of relax in that circle and not be a dog-eat-dog circus when you come to something like that.
I remember years ago, a good buddy of mine, Marty McLean, and I went to a alien psychic symposium in Toronto at the International Center. And we got there early and we're walking back. We had a booth there for the X-Chronicles newspaper that we've been publishing. In fact, we were the first paranormal parapsychology newspaper ever printed around the world. So we were there, and we walked into the little kitchen area that they always have for the participants, and the psychics were saying, well, do you think we're going to be busy tonight? Do you think we're going to do good? And I looked at Marty and I said, shouldn't they know? So So how does somebody going into one of these major events where there are 30, 40, 50, 60 psychics actually know who's legit and who is just there to try and make a quick buck?
Well, I can't say that. I mean, that would be individually picking on some individual, but I will tell you a story that relates back to me.
Okay,
from New Zealand.
All right, before you go on, I've got to say we've got about 3 minutes.
Okay, well, it'll be quick. It's more of a quick story.
Okay.
So I was coming to New Zealand, and I was coming to a little town called Blenheim, and Blenheim had some psychic. It was a psychic shop downtown. Mm-hmm. So they had gone to see. It was over in Wellington. It was Sylvia Brown.
Oh gosh, yeah.
At that point there. And Sylvia Brown told them when they went for the reading there was actually going to be a Canadian healer coming to work out of their shop. Mm-hmm. So I got honorable mention from Sylvia Brown, which had to get it from her people to tell them in the first place, because Sylvia Brown didn't know me from, dog
From Adam, yeah.
So, yeah. And so I'm saying that if you're good at what you do, Spirit will carry that. And Spirit will make somehow known to other people that need to use you and let that out. And they'll feel that vibe from you that feels that this is a good person to come to because I feel that they're good. And on the other side of the coin is that, they're going to get that vibe after going to, and you may stumble. You may go for a reading and it's not what you need to go. Well, then you kind of determine to yourself, this is not kind of suiting where I'm at, So it is a little bit of hit and miss, but it's kind of like feel the air when you're going to them. Feel what your gut tells you.
Right.
Feel if your gut says this person is somebody that you could utilize, and go with that.
Go with your gut and go with your heart.
Yeah.
Listen, I've got about, Craig, how much time do I have? He says I've got about a minute. What is your message for the X-Zone Nation listening tonight? What message would you like to share with them?
Okay. This is not picking on any one individual, doctors or whatever, but I want to say this. If anybody ever gets handed a terminal word, don't let it stop with that. Seek to find the more answers. Don't let that be your final clause. Let your faith carry you to where you need to go. Just don't give up. And if I say that has to do with me or anybody, that's my biggest thing that I could say. Please don't give up. Your time is valuable on this planet, and giving 1 minute longer than what you're not going to and being and believing that that's going to be your end is not possibly your end. Believe in the furtherness. Believe that faith can carry you, and just develop a trend to be more than what you are.
Rob, quickly give our listeners your email address so that they can contact you if they'd like a one-on-one consultation.
Yeah, that's Dave, DAVE.Hammer, HAMMER 12 @gmail.com.
Rob, I want to thank you ever so much for joining us tonight. I look forward to the next time that you and I join together here in the X-Zone. Until then, thanks for being on the show tonight. And once again, thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
Good night, sir. X-Zone Nation, my guest this hour has been Rob Middaugh, and Rob's email address is, just give me a second, I've got it right here. It's dave.hammer12@gmail.com. I'll be back on the other side of the short break as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and our newest affiliate. You ready? Classic 1220 CFAJ, www.classic1220.ca.